Well, thank you for meeting with me again. I figure what I'll do is I'll just share my screen, show you the Flowlu, show you what I think, and then maybe you could just like you would anybody else, talk about how you would help me automate.
Yeah.
I'll show you my ideas, tell you my ideas, and then maybe we can come up with a collaborative approach to get some kind of plan. What do you think?
I think that would be great. I've watched the video. I've been automating things my whole life, and I like the flow that the Flowlu has. It makes a lot of sense. So I'm intrigued to see how you're using it and how we could improve it to help the way that we work in the future.
Software, like I said, it's only about a year old. The whole team is not really using it. We've been using Google Drive, and everybody's been using Skype, Google Drive, and then just a lot of intuition, which is not my preference. You can see there's one project for that workflow. There's 6 for this one. This one might be good here, health routine. Here's our work structure. We actually do not have a task workflow. We just add the tasks. This is the structure itself, and then an actual project will go in under that structure. So I can show you that, or do you need me to show you that? Actually, you know what? I won't.
You can just talk through. You can just talk through how you move from phase to phase and what you're trying to do there.
Yeah, because if I go into the other project, you'll be seeing proprietary information of my clients' contact information and stuff. So it's just probably better for recording purposes if we just stay on this screen. But anyways, these are just the milestones. So we have this routine. We like to do a website health check. It could be even up to once a month for our clients that we're doing general maintenance for, or SEO, or anything really. We like to go in there and check. And then from a sales perspective, even if we don't have a paid contract with them, we would go in to try to see if there's some work that could be done or some updates that they would need. And so this is kind of the developer review will reveal bugs, problems, or positive things like, wow, you're doing really great at this thing, but we think you should maybe fix the code, or there's an update, there's something that's outdated, or something along those lines. So the developer goes in and reviews it, and then we discover exactly what needs to be done. So these things should be used in order to record and track the client success and progress through a client nurturing protocol. So those are the kind of things that I really want to automate. So for example, we may have a customer that says, look, all I want you to do is go in and switch out these pictures. Well, we're in the back end of the site, so we're doing a quick health routine to see, is this what they really need? What's going on? Just so that we can get a feel for what's happening. A lot of times it's a client that we are very familiar with the back end of the site and we already know, but we want to document that stuff. And then these are just the regular.
If they ask you to switch out pictures, you would do it, though, right? Or what do you look for when you're? Would that initiate that first step then, if they asked you to switch out pictures, or is this is the routine one that happens periodically?
Okay, yeah. So website health check is really not switching out pictures. This is kind of like a little diagnostic. It's kind of like reading the codes on your car. Like if you get a check engine light, you go in and you read the codes. So all we're doing is just going in and checking it out. So if they want to just switch out pictures, then we would just consider that a task, not a project. So this is a workflow to do several tasks. So underneath each milestone, there's several tasks. These are the tasks. So the first tasks are the documents. So you want to document developer review in the scope of work. And then this is planning. And so we just want to look at the health adjustments to implement the preferred plugins, update user base, verify SSL. And then we would upsell R&D, and then alert team lead of additional needs. So these are the things that I'm talking about automating, because if they say, I want you to go in and check the site and I want you to just clean up a little bit, but I don't want you to do a whole bunch of work. I mean, picture yourself going to Jiffy Lube. You want an oil change, and then the mechanic comes out from the back room and goes, "Oh, we were in there and we saw you need this thing and this thing and this thing." And the person says, "No, just change the oil. That's all I want. I don't want you to do that other stuff." But it's up to the tech to say, you still need these three things. Even though you just want us to clean your oil, you need these three things, and then we document it. Then after here, we get the client approval on the scope of work that we were hired to do, not the stuff we want to do, because as an agency, we want to do more work than what they require or what they ask for. We want continued work. So we get their satisfaction on, okay, we did just what you wanted us to, and then we officially end that specific project. We send that notification, the client signs off, and then we have additional health check reminders and then add client to other notifications. None of this is automated. So we want the system to kind of go, oh, all right, maybe during the development review, there's just a blurb, a section, one line, like that's not for internal use. It's for customer viewing. Is you say, this is the opinion, this is the grade we gave you, or this is, am I making sense?
Who gives that grade? Is that what you're?
The developer, an expert. Expert goes in and says, okay, you want us to just change the oil, but we went in there and we saw these three things. So in the review, it's noted, client just wants pictures, but we've noted that
The cabin air filter needs to be replaced.
Yeah, but it really does need to be replaced, even if they don't want it. Even if they don't want it, it's okay.
So we're bringing attention to it, their choice, if they're gonna pay for that work or if they're gonna wait for the next time. Okay, so what's the question then with developer review?
Okay, so yeah, let's just stick with the Jiffy Lube analogy because it seems to be working. So for example, if they really need a new air filter, right? Or they need, let's just say they need a new fuel filter. As time goes on, oh no, I don't want that. Well, their car might break down. The fuel filter they might not realize they need one, and eventually they're going to get side effects that's going to affect the operation of the vehicle. Well, it's the same thing here. So we would like to have anything that's needed. I don't know if we tag it as an actionable event underneath that CRM. If we just talk about the logic for a minute of what's the best, way to organize it, tag it as an actionable event or an unpaid event, or maybe differentiate from a client desire and an internal suggestion somehow.
I mean, you'll be showing them these things anyway, right? Like Jiffy Lube might have their 31-point inspection or something where it's with the checklist of basic things that they check for, and if there's something wrong, they tell you it's out of range and should be looked at, and they could do it right now. Or there's some things that are critical that you need to do that you might be recommending stronger, but if it's the air filter, I know I've turned down the air filter before because you might be able to find it cheaper, or you might not believe them, or you might not want it right then, and it's not going to break the car for a little while, right? Like
you bring up a really good point. So if you're tagging it with an actionable event, it should be quantified. Like be nice to have, or high priority, like low priority, medium priority, high priority. Because if they have something that's like definitely going to take their site down, and we're saying, hey, we found this thing and this is a problem, and they decide not to do it, we have it listed. So now back to the Jiffy Lube example. They have the 31-point inspection, but once you leave Jiffy Lube, that's it. Unless you go back to that same place and the guy, and he says, oh yeah, I remember this car and I remember it needed a blah, blah, blah. What I want to do is I want to automate it after the person's done, once a month, every couple of weeks, saying, hey, how's that broken thing you have? That's what I mean by client nurturing protocols, where maybe we don't hassle them and really, I don't want to high pressure anybody or sell anybody in a high pressure way. I just want to gently say, here's the record that we have on you or something. What do you think?
Well, for my business, if I were looking at your readiness to incorporate AI into your business holistically, I would use an assessment that helps point towards parts that need attention. And you'll have a reason for why it needs attention. And that report can be generated when you're doing a wellness check. And I think there would be some green, yellow, red type of situation where you're strongly recommending something because it's critical, right? That could be in the red, or it's mandated by some, governing body where you can't let them leave the shop because it's unsafe for other things, or it's some level of critical nature that you're putting your foot down, basically, like it's ridiculous not to do this. And then there's the medium-sized things that would be good, would be good to do. You should do, but it's not going to shut your site down. It's not going to throw your business off the rails because of that one thing. But then you have that discussion too, right? It's there, it's on paper. It goes up and down. Those things could move from yellow to red eventually, or I'm thinking or vice versa, but
Right. Well, it depends on if they turn down the work or not. So basically what I'm hearing is that you're saying to use AI to automate the developer review. So you have, a GPT that acts as, an assistant to do the review.
Mhm.
That's an automated report that's generated.
Mhm.
And then what I'm talking about is process automation to alert the client on a schedule based on progress of the active project, and then after the project ends to continue this client nurturing.
So that comes down to your workflows then, which are based off of different triggers, right? So
Well, right now the workflow is just a skeleton. It's just a list of tasks and milestones. The automation's not there. So if we go in, let me go back here. If we go in, let's see, where are my automations? Right here. So in here, execution, create rule.
yeah, so even in initiation, maybe that task, right? If that task,
Yeah, create a task.
if that this is creating a rule, so this is going to run. The condition would be the start. No, I guess what we'd be looking at. Run immediately. Click the condition. Add a condition. Scroll down because it might be like on completion or something like that.
Project description.
No, keep
priority stage.
I'm looking for something like
Project type, opportunity group. I don't see anything with tag.
yeah.
But there's, let me see the task workflow. So here, all right. So
Because I know you can. There's another task that you can add, right, to this thing.
yeah, but you can see I do have some automations here in 3 days notification. So let's look at one that's done. Is that all right? You want, or you want me to? Okay. Okay. So send a notification in 3 days.
Oh, okay.
Automated message that this task was created 3 days ago. Okay, so this is sending it to responsible parties. So that's the assignee.
Right.
I don't see any if and then conditions though.
Now, so I think if you go back, it's that in the run statement there.
Oh, you want me to, I'm sorry, did I close it too quickly?
No, you can go back to the one we're trying to build out. So if
This one?
You're trying to add a new automation, right?
Yeah, so let's look at this and see where the best place to start is. So we could notify during the developer review. And then here it says alert team lead if additional needs. So we've got R&D here. This is
But
the upsell.
these are just like, you check them off that they're complete. Is that what that is?
Yeah,
like? Okay,
right now it's just
so
me
that's where the automation comes in. If you think about it in triggers, so there could be an automation that runs when this is completed, possibly, right? I know what happens when you have tasks that, like in the lower area there, if you're adding tasks, you can send those
these
tasks
are
to certain
tasks.
people.
These are tasks.
Okay, so like, can you go back to one of the where you're trying to add an automation?
Yeah, this is what I'm on right now. Like, see how it says research better alternatives to existing plugins and snippets, determine if the site needs any upgrades.
But these are just words to a person to tell them what to do, right?
Right, but let's automate this part. If they determine,
Yes,
like,
right. So then they would check this off as being done.
Right, but what if they did the R&D? So right now, this is just R&D. And what if nothing needs to be done? So can we say, as soon as this task is completed, send a notification to the buyer or the customer with text in this box? And then the text in that box would be, yes, you need upgrades, or no, you need. So this determination, it would be good if once this is checked off as done, to send it to the customer.
So to do that, we would need some data somewhere that is more than the checkbox that it's done. We would need something like a form that has a no R&D needed checkbox, or a checkboxes for here's the recommended R&D upsells that then would go to the team, right? If there was something for R&D recommending, it would go to the team lead to decide to match it up with the client. Is that how that goes? Like the second milestone there in upsell? If R&D determines there is stuff to do, then they send a recommendation to the team lead to compare it, right? So then it's another decision point, right? So R&D is like, hey, we reviewed it. There's these things that we found that could be potential upsells, technically. And then that goes to the team lead, who looks at the recommendations and makes another decision to say, these match up with my customers' needs, and I'm going to ask them if they want this. Right,
Yeah,
so those tasks
see,
need more information in them, is what I'm thinking. Right, they need some way to have like even just a checkbox for R&D to say yes, there's things, or no, there isn't. Which could,
I don't see a checkbox available, but I see tags. So we could add a tag. So there's that. That's an alert that we could automate that, and then I could see an attached file. So once this is completed, so the attached file could be that form. So we can't really change this page, but
my guess is that there's somewhere else that a form can be created that can also be linked into the automation, that when that's submitted, it triggers the next thing, and could even check the task off and put the person's name on it. Like, this is when I was an innovation manager for a global medical device company. I ran a innovation management platform for thousands of people, and my goal was to automate the tasks like this, where you're speeding towards decision making, right? So distributing small tasks to the right people at the right times, giving them simple things that they can figure out for the amount of time that they should be spending on it. Sometimes at the very beginning of a project, it's just a quick, do you think we could do this in the next year or two? Or do you think it's going to be longer than that? Or can we do this on the current machines we have if you're in production? And it could be yes or no, like the engineer's best guess at the time. And when they finish that task, but it comes to them as a form, when they finish that task, it goes back into the system, triggers the next workflow, and sends the next, financial review to the finance person, or the, as it wraps up, back to the project manager to report back all the components. But it involved more than, like, my guess is that there's a forms or a document section in
Yeah.
here.
Oh yeah. This,
You're working on a tab that's not being shared, by the way, but it may have proprietary data and you don't want to share it too. So I'm just going off of
it's not showing you.
actions. I wonder if
No.
actions in the CRM can then spark automation, right? So it's like,
Okay, so it's not showing you. So you're still seeing this website. So when I navigated away from that, let me stop and try to reshare, because this is information you want to see. Forms. Okay. So here are the web forms module settings. Can you see it?
yes,
So this is saying it's just to take and generate a lead from the site into the CRM to create an opportunity or a lead. So now let me see the settings. Thank you, error. Yeah, so this is a very simple form. I mean, we could do a webhook. There's webhooks in here, but that's a different. So it looks like their automations are within each module.
I don't know what's in business processes. Yeah, maybe even client facing.
It goes, yes, it's going to the sales funnel. Yeah, web development. So their website development is a sales pipeline. So those forms look like they go to, can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Those are just for the website to create opportunities, which are leads.
This is business process.
Automated sequences of operations. There you go. A flexible automated process covering your whole business. Okay, new hires, document agreements, regular meetings.
Be a way that a form or a document can get filled out or submitted and trigger the next step in the workflow. That's my guess. Or if it's not in this already, that's where it needs to go.
A form. Yeah, because I was looking at it. I can see what you're saying.
So then the task goes to the engineer that reviews the website. And instead of just checking off that he reviewed it or she reviewed it, they give it a rating, like even if it's out of 3, like like neutral, good, or bad, right? It could be something very simple, or whatever it is. They run that 31-point inspection on it, and that is the outcome of the step. The milestone's completed, but how does the system know what to do with that outcome by just checking the box?
The reason why I was looking at this, I'm just thinking about the workaround. So we could do individual automations within each module, but then we might go and find client needs something if they're in any kind of workflow. So we have workflows for SEO, for web development, for graphic design, for funnel building, for print media. So to duplicate all that automation, that's why it seems like the form is what you're talking about, that it's easier to route. Is that correct?
There's data entry and decision making, and those are the parts that start looping around. So somebody's got to check something, they've got to do something to check it, and then they submit something, and then it goes through the next step.
Right. My question is, the reason why you want to use a form is to bypass having to automate within each individual workflow. All you do is you create one form.
The form has the ability to collect more data than just checking a box. that the milestone is done. And that data can be parsed rather than attaching a document to the milestone. You know, there could be, you could work around to pull that document, parse it through something, or hand it off to the next person taking the task. Or if that came through as a form, it could have very explicit data fields, like a checkbox that says nothing further needed, or a checkbox that passes it on to the another, you know, deeper review, or red flags it for something else and could control the next step in the workflow.
Yeah.
So that then, like, the data within the form becomes the direction. Like, it helps decide what the direction is. If, and that, you know, on basic level is if this, then that, right? If this checkbox says there's an upsell in it, pass it to the team lead. If this checkbox isn't checked, then it goes straight to the customer. There's no upsells that we think are feasible right now. So we're just going to keep, you know, speedy to the client then, right? So
Right. Yeah.
so it's not
So
the team leader that sees nothing.
I'm looking at the code here, which looks like it could be easily edited, you know, because you just copy it and, you know, you've got your input type, you know, web form, source ID, pipeline ID, manager ID. Now this is the type of form callback, but it almost looks like we could create some additional inputs, you know, just add a line input, task ID, input project ID. So we could use one of these as a template. This is, you know, might take a little custom coding in Notepad, but I mean, even if we did a workaround without that, like if we go back to main setting web forms.
The very first thing I would do is research Flowlu to see, like, that's what I would do immediately. Right. For me, as soon as we stop actively crunching this challenge, would be to understand how to set triggers and automation with documents and forms in Flowlu, and see if that's even a thing, right? If my guess is it's gotta be.
Yeah, so this one is the longest form that I can see, but I'm seeing here when you're setting this up, the source could be, this could be the trigger, and we have either employee referral customer event. So this could be our customer event form, and we can custom make pipelines. These are just the ones that are in there right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we could create an automation pipeline and build it out once. So that's what I'm seeing, because I've only had the software a year. I've been using it, so I haven't really gotten really deeply into automation, but I feel like we're headed in the right direction. So the source would be customer event. So each time, then we would have, this would be a form ID, you know, this would be the form that we would use. Let's see, does it give us an opportunity to create new forms? Yeah, so it's just main settings. I don't see anything that says create new, but this one here has the most fields out of all of them that I can see. And so you've got product, service, company. So if product equals, you know, if company, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. You just display the company, send to the company, notify the company, you know, charge the company, invoice the company. These fields are here to be able to act on each field. So yeah, definitely could look into it more, but I can see, you know, I can see some possibilities here. Let's put it that way.
The other considerations on forms too are that as you scale up, you can send the same form to multiple people. Let's say you have a group of engineers who could solve this problem or could answer the question, and you've got 10 of them in a pool. You could send the opportunity to work to all of them, and the first 3 that respond with filling out the form, close out the opportunity. Or if you're getting ratings, you don't need to wait for all 10. You could say, as soon as 3 of them rate this, then that's good enough. And you can take the average of those 3, or maybe it's 5, depending on your pool size. But it gives you a way to collect information. And then imagine that, like an average rating on something. If you had a feature request or some decision process, you could ask multiple people and then act on their average, on the majority rules or by some other criteria.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see more in the, there we go, the tasks. I think there's, this is just me needing to dig into Flowlu a little more, but if the tasks can be built out to have certain questions in them, because that would be ideal, is that if the engineer gets the task and it asks a few questions, pull down menus that they can, or check boxes that they can check off, and that is them doing the task.
There are checklists. And there are settings where if like you can tell the system not to move on to the next task until the previous task is completed. And then you have subtasks. So say your task is do everything on this list. And then inside the task is these subtasks, which are a checklist, open the web page, task 2, read the web page, task 3, write a summary. And then each one is done. You click the checkbox that they're completed. Then it'll allow you to close out that task. And you could create finishing a task or starting a new task as a trigger.
Yeah. So
that we could make a form in a task that could be a recurring task. So this is one of the challenges with automation, is that there's a couple of different ways of going around it. Like you're bringing up this idea of developing a form. It's a little bit more comprehensive for all projects, which is really good. I was kept thinking, well, geez, why don't I go into the individual workflows and automate the client nurturing protocols and then just copy it in each, but that's duplicating. And then if I have to change it, I got to change it in a bunch of places. So you're bringing up very good points. Let's put it that way.
I'm not so worried about copying and pasting different workflows if they work, because then they also don't mess each other up. Forms might have slightly different information depending on the workflow too. For instance, a review form for a technical review would have different information than a financial review. And so you're not necessarily sending the same form to everybody, whoever needs to fill out a form, but sending that form, like you can have that financial review workflow where it knows it gets triggered by some opportunity that's ready for financial review. And then that data enters the financial review, triggers a task to all the finance people that would be in the pool of reviewers. And when the right amount of them finish their task of submitting a financial review, that task could go away for all of them. And then it moves on to the next one, which could be.
Yeah. I think the challenge is the starting point is getting to kind of a unified, automated starting point for all projects. So I think that if we go, so there's two different angles we're looking at. One is to use a project or a task and automate turn that into the form that collects the data or the checklist. Then the other thought is, if you need just a unified form, that would cause some custom coding, because it looks like those forms are only linked to opportunities. So, and the forms are limited. So in order we could scoop up that code and paste it onto an external web page, edit the code, but now we're getting into custom coding. So I think for the purpose of our tutorial, for other people that use this type of software, that we probably don't want to do much custom coding and bring in like more complex things right now. I think for the purpose of our exercise, it'd be good to just use the capabilities within the software for people that either don't want to hire a coder, don't know how to hire a coder, or they're not going to be copying and pasting, JavaScript and stuff like that. They don't want to do that. And so my mind is going where it's like, okay, so we could create one. So there's an agile project that just always keeps going. Then there's project workflows, regular default projects. You can automate it all. You can automate leads, you can automate projects, and then you can automate tasks. And so I'm thinking, and I'm not as experienced with these type of things as you are, so just follow me for a second and tell me if I'm wrong, is to take one project, maybe call it the master scope of work, or intake number 1, something like that, like start here, always start here, call it that. And that will be the name of the project, because every project allows you to set all kinds of triggers. You can assign it to someone. You could assign it to a GPT. You could assign it to this. Your tasks could have an automation workflow and also have checklists, which could be literally a form. Answer this question, then check off when done. And then the automation would be send this to whether it's customer, owner, follower, collaborator, and it would just use the functionality within the software to really just automate one super project. But that automation could assign a workflow, assign people. What do you think?
I think you're on the right track with that. I mean, it's clear you're on the edge of the curve, right, thinking about how to automate this, and talking through this comes clear to keep it from that gigantic spaghetti bowl of different automations, but to think through the different workflows that happen, the little mini workflows that happen, and having a control type of workflow that determines which mini workflow it's ready for. So if it's a routine ask from the client, it automatically checks to see that the website inspection has been done recently enough. It says there's no new R&D for them. Just go ahead and do these few pictures that they're asking to be changed. Or it catches something else. Hey, we haven't talked to them in a few months. We checked their website. We found these types of improvements that could be made, and it passes it to the next workflow to determine, does this line up with their needs or whatever workflow you have. So many workflows that do very specific tasks, and an overarching architecture that sends workflows to, sends data to those workflows and gets it back. It starts to feel like a computer program, right? A well-operating company.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so in your opinion, with an agency, a company that's in this situation, we've been setting up for a year on the software. We're ready to start going to the next level. Where would you look first for automating?
Based on our discussion today, the first place I would look at is within the platform to see what types of, how to set up those triggers to collect information from step to step, so that it's not just checking one box that the milestone's done, but that it's giving you more information so that decisions can be made. And I would start looking. I have this sense in me that there's something that's usable through a webhook, or like there's got to be a webhook when a form is submitted, and then it just becomes sending an email with the link to the form to the person who's filling it out, who's expected to fill it out. So the first place I would look right now is looking into what kind of webhooks or triggers can be made off of form and document completion or submission.
Right. So I see what you're saying. But moving ahead of that, the triggers, explain the triggers and flesh that out a little bit on the types of triggers that a small business would. What is a trigger? What are important triggers? Where do they at least get into the strategic thinking of a trigger and how to think about what triggers are and how to work with them and think about them?
Triggers are the impetus for starting some work on a piece of data. So the initial trigger somehow is a customer or client requesting some work, or a trigger could be a time-based trigger. It's been 3 months. We check our client's website every quarter, and that trigger is a time-based trigger versus the user event. And other things could be triggers as well, just the completion of a form, even if it's a very long form, or completion of multiple forms. When those are finished, that could be a trigger as well. So triggers are just the thing that should cause something else, right? So a form gets submitted, it triggers the check to see if all the forms have been submitted for that stage. If all those forms have been submitted, now it moves it to the next stage, and that's the action. So triggers inspire some action, and those actions is where we can automate things. For when that trigger happens, a person or a program is going to move it to the next stage or do something with it. And now with AI, we can start layering in some of those decisions into an artificial intelligence. Right now, we use a lot of human intelligence to do it, but that action then becomes completing the next task. When that task is finished, that's another trigger for the data to move on. I see it as a flow of data, just almost like in a car factory. Getting back to our car analogy. Before we ever need the...
Let's use that. So if you're going to Jiffy Lube and you need your oil changed, the first trigger is walking through the door. Oh, a new customer comes in, and they're probably trained from a very simple way. You have to greet every customer. So if I get a lead on my website, someone wants to ask a question or give feedback or whatever, it should trigger a welcome email.
Yes.
And then if they've already gotten the welcome email, it doesn't trigger another welcome email. It triggers something else. Now, if they've been nurtured and communicated with over the course of however long, couple of months or whatever, and we say, hey, we're inviting you to become a client, and they decide, okay, I'll give you guys a try, that triggers an onboarding process. That onboarding process probably gets assigned to a representative. They get their first phone call, they get their little user manual, whatever it is. Each step along the pipeline triggers whatever it is along that pipeline. So would you be willing to have another conversation and look deeper into trying to get some automation without webhooks? Now, we have tech people, definitely have people that are smart guys that would be happy to tinker and write code, but I would like to be able to do it without that.
I would love to continue the conversation, because this is right where we're at. Flowlu's got, the platform's built out enough. So I'll take a look into it again and see if anything sparks gives me a green flag for any of this, because ideally what you're saying is true. want to keep within the platform that we're paying for. I can't stand redundant data. So as soon as you start moving it in and out of different databases, you got to watch out for keeping it synced up and secure. So I would love to continue the conversation and see what else we can dig up here.
All right. If somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how do they reach you? If someone had a question, or if there's some Jiffy Lubes out there that need to be automated, maybe.
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Paul Fletter, or visit my website at fletterconsulting.com, and you can get in touch with me from there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I know that I've been very impressed the times that we've talked, and I'm really looking forward to having the conversation again and seeing where we can collaborate and get some automations going. I think it's wonderful. And I know that we will benefit from it. I know I will. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I think we will, and benefit for all of the future clients and workers out there. We're moving through a great space now, and the future of work is wild. So I love what you're doing, and thanks for the call, and we'll continue the discussion soon. Thanks.
All right. Just use the tagline, no webhooks.
No webhooks. All right, Christy.
No webhooks, Paul. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.